Welcome everyone. It is Saturday, is it the 20th? I believe it is. July the 20th, 2019. It is currently 4:34 p.m. Central Time. Yes, it is July the 20th. Yes, July the 20th. For some reason, I was thinking it's a different day. So welcome everyone. This is a live broadcast for the VBC 66 app. So let me do that again. Let me do it in a more professional way. Welcome everyone. It is Saturday, July the 20th, 2019. It is now currently 4:34 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from Abilene, Texas, and very hot West Texas. Well, it's hot all over the United States of America this weekend, or not all over the United States of America. Certain parts of the United States of America is experiencing some extreme heat. Is that a good way to put it? So wherever you are, whatever you may be doing this Saturday, I hope you're having a good one. I thought I would pick up the iPad, hit the old go live button, and share with you, I think, what will be our focus all next week on the VBC 66 app. Now, I don't do this every single week. I'm always coming up with new ideas for the VBC 66 app. Now, for those who are listening to this live, or if you're listening to a recording, and you do not have the VBC 66 app, take a few minutes, go to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, do a search for VBC, which stands for Victory Baptist Church, the number 66, place that all together, VBC 66, please download the app. Because on the app, I'm always looking for new ways to make the app as beneficial and as valuable as it can be. Lots of churches have apps. There's no debate about that. However, I tend to think, and I know some, especially pastors who may hear this, who have apps, I tend to think that a lot of church apps are not really that valuable. I don't. So what we're trying to do is to make our app a place that in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, late at night, we've really been trying this 4 times a day idea. It doesn't work every single day, but I'm trying to post things around 4 times a day to say, hey, here's your morning spiritual food. Here's your afternoon spiritual food. Here's your evening spiritual food. Here's your late night spiritual food. Trying to ensure that the app, something's always new being posted that will give you something. They'll keep you informed about what's happening in your world, give you plenty to think about, and to provide lots of spiritual nourishment. So we're really trying to make the app very beneficial. And one of the things that we have done over the past few weeks, we didn't really do it this week, is pick one thing to focus on for that entire week, right? And say, here it is. And then I may record some things saying this is going to be our week-long focus. And then I may provide audio from different people, from different things. It may be a seminary lecture. It may be from a radio program. It may be a sermon. And say, here are some other things that relate to our focus. It may not come from the same perspective I have. And just giving us the ability to think and to be challenged about it. Well, just a few minutes ago, I was sitting down to have my kind of afternoon, early evening devotional time, and I read a passage of Scripture. So let me pull up that passage of Scripture. Now, if you know the title of this recording, or if you're listening to the live broadcast, you know the title of the live broadcast, and you kind of know what passage I'm getting ready to read. So there really is no secret, but it's in the book of Colossians. The book of Colossians, chapter 3, let's start in verse 1. If ye then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. All right, this would imply that whoever he's speaking to, if you then be risen with Christ, in other words, you've experienced some kind of resurrection, or you're somehow united with Christ in his resurrection. If you have been risen with Christ, right, there's a lot we could ask there. Seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. Set your affections on things above, not on things on the earth. Now, Colossians 3, verses 1 and 2, there is plenty there to take apart. And there's plenty there to challenge us as Christians about where are our affections at? Where are our affections placed? Are our affections firmly in heaven? Is that where we set our affections on things above, not on things on this earth? Or are our affections, if we're really honest, are firmly planted right here on planet Earth? I think a lot of times, if we're honest, I know we can say this, but we're honest, our affections, they're right here on earth. And so when I read verses 1 and 2, there was a lot I was going to do with it. But, I've heard, a million sermons on Colossians 3, 1 through 2, but I always try never to allow how many sermons I've heard to try to keep me from missing, to still not be, I don't want familiarity to breed contempt, in the sense that I don't want it to not, lead to conviction, because there's plenty there to be convicted by. But for today, the verse that jumped out at me is the verse that I think we will make the focus for all next week. All right? Here we go. Colossians chapter 3, verse 3. Pay close attention to the language. For ye are dead. Wait a minute. Verse 1, if ye then be risen. So verse 1 speaks of a being risen, some kind of resurrection language. Verse 3 says, if you are dead, all right. If ye are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. Now wait a minute. If I'm dead, and if my life is hid with Christ in God, if I'm dead, how do I have a life? Interesting language, right? If you're dead and your life is hid with Christ in God. Okay, am I dead? Is my life, how do I understand? What kind of dead is this referring to? What kind of life is this referring to? I'm dead, but my life is hid with Christ in God. So let's read this again. Colossians chapter 3, verse 3. If you are dead and your life is hid with Christ in God, when Christ, who is your life, shall appear, then you shall also appear with him in glory. All right, so I want to focus on Colossians 3:3. For ye are dead and your life is hid with Christ in God. All right. There's a couple of things. I'm just going to throw these out right now. These are questions that came to my mind in reading this, right? So I'm going to throw out the questions. Now, I know it's Saturday. Typically, I would do this on a Monday morning, but then hopefully Monday we can get back to this, and I'll start posting some different, discussions and sermons that I can find in regards to Colossians 3:3, and just see. I already read a number of things quickly, and a lot of different perspectives on this, all right? Which is very common in Christianity. When you pull up commentaries, you find out, wow, there's 37 different opinions on this verse. That's always frustrating, but it should keep us humble and not always being so arrogant, and work together. And the goal with these live broadcasts and recordings of these live broadcasts, especially when I do these kind of devotional ideas, what I typically do is hand you kind of some hermeneutical questions. Then it's up to you to do the work. Try to find the answer. So are you ready? Here we go. Question number 1 in regards to Colossians 3:3. For ye are dead. Stop right there. What kind of death is this referring to? What death is this referring to? He's speaking, he's writing to people and saying, if you are dead. Now, obviously, this death can't be a physical death. So what kind of death is this referring to? For ye are dead. All right. Now, you can shout out an answer right now. Obviously, I can't hear you. But even if you can shout out an answer, being so confident of it, what you need to do is prove your answer about what kind of death this is scripturally, textually. Not just because you heard a sermon on it. Not just because you have a presupposition, right? Now you got to make sure you don't do crazy cross-referencing, all right? You got to try to build your case here, all right? So what kind of death? For ye are dead. What does that mean? I'm dead. I'm dead? In what way? And your life is hid with Christ. All right, second question. First is, okay, what does this death refer to? And in what way am I dead? And your life. What life is this referring to? I got to understand the death, and I got to understand the life. How do I understand the death in verse 3? For you are dead. What does that mean? And your life, what does it mean? What life is this referring to? because I'm dead, but I have a life. How do I understand this? All right, third question. So number one, what does the death refer to? Number two, what does the life refer to? And number three, what does it mean that my life, whatever life this is hid with Christ in God? What does it mean that my life is hid with Christ in God? What is it referring to? If my life is hid, with Christ in God, what does that mean? How do I understand that? How does that make any sense? So let me read that. Let me go through those questions again. Number one, what does it mean? What is the death here in Colossians 3:3? What is this death referring to? What is this death referring to in Colossians 3:3? All right, I have someone trying to send me a message while I'm on the air live, right? Colossians 3, I hate that when that happens. I need to learn to send out a message to everyone. I'm going live, okay? All right, Colossians 3:3, for you are dead. So what is this death? All right, what's that referring to? Number two, and your life. Okay, what life is this referring to? If I'm dead, what life is this? And then number three, what does it mean that this life is hid with Christ in God? What does that mean? How do I understand that? Let me just pull up for you really quick. Where is it? There's a book called The Surrendered Life. I don't remember who it's written by. I have it here on my iPad. I'm not going to go all the way back to the beginning to figure out where it is. But they have this Surrendered Life is kind of like a devotional. And for July the 20th, which is today, that's probably how I ended up on Colossians 3:3. They have Colossians 3 verses 3 through 4 as the scripture for July the 20th. All right. And the title here is Spiritually Insistent. Spiritually insistent. And then they have the scripture. For you died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is our life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. All right, so same questions. What does this death mean? Now here, clearly, for you died. All right, speaking that you have died. Your life, okay, what is this life? Hidden with Christ in God. Now there seems to be a promise here. If I'm dead and my life is hidden with Christ in God, then when Christ, who is our life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. If I want to appear with him in glory, then there seems to need to be a requirement for death and a requirement that my life, whatever that is hidden with Christ in God. All right, what is that referencing? How do I understand that? Let me read a little bit of what they have to say. I am not saying this is right. I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm just throwing out there how just a devotional grabs this verse and starts handling it. You've got your three questions. What is this death? What is this life? What does it mean that this life is hidden with Christ in God? All right. Now, let's read what this devotional has to say. I may not read all of it, but just some of it. The emphasis here is on your life hidden with Christ. It is your life. You are in an organic union with Christ. You are joined to him. The issue of this joining is your life. Now, when I read devotionals like that, I always have to stop and go, okay, that all sounds so spiritual and so deep, but what does it mean practically? Let's read that again. The emphasis here is on your life hidden with Christ. It is your life. All right? Doesn't really explain what that means. You are in an organic union with Christ. Ooh, organic. That sounds good. What does that mean? You are joined to him. The issue of this joining is your life. It is subjective. Since it is your life, you can initiate him or you can let him just be there. Now, I don't even know what that's talking about. Let's continue. Right? So it's your life. I can initiate him, or I can just let him be there. Now, I just find it amazing that they're pulling this from Colossians 3:3-4. They just take off running. It's like, whoa, we got a verse. Let's just start throwing out all kinds of spiritual language. Well, wait, I still got to answer some questions. What does it mean I died? What life are you referring to? And how is it hidden? They ignore the obvious questions that I think a good Bible reader would have. And they just start going off on this very spiritual